Hello. We are in a whole new area today. If you can't tell, I'm actually at my mother's place. If it looks like a disaster, that was totally me because I just got here and everything's a disaster where I go, I guess. I just make a disaster. Today we're doing To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. Yeah, I got his name. I know his name. I know everyone knows his name. I'm sorry. Here's the book. Here's the big boy book. You got an overview. You know what it is. If you don't know what this book is, we have our first section spoiler free, and then the second section is spoiler filled. So if you are coming back and you've already read it and you want to just hear the 1-star reviews of people roasting the book, I will say it was like 4.8 stars on like Amazon or something like that, and then I went to Goodreads and like the ratings are super high base, but these are just the lowest of the low ones, and they're not like, if this is the first video watching and it's like, why is it bad? It's not bad, it's good. The people have already spoken that it's good. We just want to hear what the people that hated about it and the saucy comments, because they're always so funny to me. So here we go. To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, 1-star reviews. We're starting with a banger. OMG, where to start? This book reads like a fan fiction written by a male 12-year-old boy. That's very specific for this later. It's basically Venom, but in space. Or maybe a lame version of sci-fi Witchblade? Question mark? The ideas in the story, while not original, are not the problem. The characters are so shallow, so unrealistic, and empty. Worst of all is the description of romance, like a 12-year-old boy trying to write a story about being a woman and having sex. Yeah, that weird. Super cringe. You could forgive this in the Eragon books because the author was basically 12 at the time. But now, holy crap, man. Holy crap, man. She didn't write an exclamation point. I put that in for her because I needed it. Have a woman help you write the dialogue next time. A real one. The science isn't thought through, and really nothing ever happens to connect you to the story. I'm going to punch my brother next time I see him in person for recommending this book. Just skip it, walk away, not worth it. That is the sauciest comment that I couldn't disagree with more. That is wild to me that this is even in here. But let's do a little breakdown. I'm gonna try not to completely defend him the whole time and just like point out the funny things. But 12-year-old boy, it's funny how many comments you're gonna watch or read about that are about him being young because he was so young in Eragon, and they just roast him. So let's just skip over that. That's just kind of funny. I would like to say there's also a lot of these that have Venom in it, and it's like, if you do anything with a suit that's adaptive, like it connects to you, like it sticks on your body. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but like it does stick on her body. And any suit that does that ever in anything written ever, they're gonna say he's Venom. So you'll probably see a bunch of those later as well, but this person agrees. If you haven't done any research on this book, Christopher spent like years actually researching this book, and the science in it, there's a whole epilogue of like 10 pages where he literally explains the science of fast travel, and he didn't want it to be just thrown together like most things. So the fact that she roasts him and says the science doesn't make sense is false. I can say that one's false. A lot of reviews are about opinion, but that one is just straight up not true. So I don't know why she threw that in there casually. But the rest, if she thinks that's not how women are portrayed, then that's her opinion. You roast away. You go punch your brother, ma'am. I accept that you punch your brother. Put it on the review next time. Add the video link. I want to see it. She's like, this is for that's for recommending this book. You're trash. Next review. I'll start with I don't understand. I don't understand how the book is getting so many good reviews and so few bad ones. I don't understand how promising story could fall off the rails so violently. I don't understand how this book wasn't edited and cut by 25 to 40%. Do we agree? 25% is too much. It could have been cut a little bit. Sorry, Paolini. 1 star. That was all she wrote. I don't know why she said let's start with, but that was all. That was the whole review. So your review doesn't make sense, first of all. Jerk. Anyways, if you can't tell, this is one of my favorite books. So though I said I wasn't gonna defend it, I'm gonna defend it because I can't help it. But yeah, it could have been cut more and edited, and you'll see those reviews, which is gonna be fun. Let's go to the next one. This one I loved. Next review. I loved this review because I'll just read it and then tell you why. Firefly plus Venom plus Speaker of the Dead plus Indiana Jones plus Hero of Ages equals the worst book I've ever read. Question mark, question mark. I would have thought that was it possible. I wouldn't. That was my bad reading. I wouldn't have thought that was possible, but Paolini proved me wrong. P.S. The book is fantasy, not sci-fi. This first part, the fact that Firefly plus Venom plus Speaker of the Dead plus Indiana Jones plus Hero of Ages sounds like one of the best books I've ever read in my life. And he said, the worst book I've ever read, question mark. Why is there a question mark in that review? There's 2 of them. Why is there 2 question marks? And in that description, that's not a 1-star book. I know he says that I wouldn't think it would possible, but if you add every aspect of like 6 different books and then say it's not original like most of these are saying, that's just hilarious to me. But yeah, that's a harsh opinion out here. So 1 star. Worst book they've ever read. Oof. Next review. Unfortunately, this was one of the worst books I've read in a long time. The writing was laborious. The plot was rambling and nonsensical. The characters are flat and uninteresting. The language switches from vulgar to esoteric. Chill with the language, and back in a way that gives the reader whiplash. I stuck it out and read all 800 plus pages. I cannot recommend anyone else does the same. You can't give a 1-star review to someone that reads the whole book. Next review. I was so surprised when my daughter, that is 11 years old, told me that there were bad words written in this book, not meant for young adults. This is not a reason to put it in 1-star review. First off. Secondly, there is bad words and there is some parts. I think it was like a PG. I would let my 11-year-old read this. But that's like a parenting thing, so I understand. But I think to write a 1-star review because there is bad language and you didn't do enough research, I'm sure they were like, oh, Aragon, that she read Aragon and she wants to read this book, same author, we'll just let him. You still gotta do research. You can't be mad at the book for that. And that being said, like, Paolini's obviously fine. Like, I'm just saying, I don't like to see this because if a small author gets this kind of like feedback and that 1-star actually hurts them really bad, if they only like 50 reviews and one of them is because of something like this, that does hurt them. Paolini doesn't care at all, obviously. Next review. Couldn't finish it. I don't know what the hell this was supposed to be, but it's not science fiction. Didn't care about anyone in the book, way too long. So I have a question I'm gonna lay out for everybody. What defines science fiction and what does not? I don't understand how this isn't science fiction. I think that every science fiction has fantasy in it. Like, tell me a story that doesn't have fantasy in it and it's gonna be like a military strategy one, and those, yes. But if it has like anything mysterious, that doesn't mean it's a fantasy. Like, most science fictions, all the blockbusters are very much fantasy. Like, Jedi, what are those? They use mind tricks. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense why it's not a science fiction. I mean, it has fantasy aspects, but every science fiction has fantasy aspects because it's mostly in the future and stuff like that, and they can't be explained because they're in space and stuff changes in space, and that's part of the magic of science fiction. And suck a nut. Next review. No, this book, seriously, with the protagonist, a space station. I'm gonna reread this with a little more emphasis. No, this book, seriously, question mark, with the protagonist, question mark, a space station, question mark, I can't. I'm done. That was just aggressive, and I'm gonna leave it like that because I like it when they're just aggressive. They probably just read that and then came back and were like, bah, I hate this. Ah. And then like literally like 2 seconds after they finish the book or something. And I always like those, so I'm gonna leave it like that. Next review. Too much swearing. You got a point. Next review. One of the worst books in my memory. Utterly primitive and dull. No imagination whatsoever. Author has a mindset of a 15-year-old kid frozen in time. The recipe is simple. 1 cup of primitive plot plus 3 cups of bloated, overly descriptive, monotonous dialogues plus 3 cups of RPG action game description and style of Duke Nukem 3D from long forgotten 1996. Smiley face. I respect the amount of effort that went into this review and the amount of like zingers that are like friendly and they're not like just extremely mad. So I'm not gonna roast this person just for that. I respect it. I respect that they added like a recipe. Classy 1-star review. Next review. It's not fantastic like Eragon. It's sci-fi horror. So long I feel asleep twice, then gave up. Bro, you didn't even try on this review. You said feel instead of fell, and you didn't even end it with a period or anything. So get your crap together. There is not horror. I don't know what the horror genre looks like. Every horror book I've read isn't that scary to me so far because I just started getting into it. But this one does not have horror in it. Don't even try to sell that. You're alone on that raft, brother. You're sent off to sea all alone, and you're probably gonna be a horror out in sea, and that's what your fate is because you misidentified this book. Next review. Did not finish. Terrible writing, a story with no arc, characters with no believable motivation, prose like lead, annoyed about the time waste getting 1/4 through it. Okay, so they've got 25% done. That's an appropriate time to stop. I understand that they didn't like how long it was. They didn't like how the arc was going. The non-believable motivation is just not a thing though. That's the only part I will disagree with and defend. Because what the hell are you talking about? You got your own opinion, but come on. At least respect the work you put in to give motivations because they were there. Get out of my reviews. Oh, we got a long one. Someone was mad. Buckle your seatbelts. Christopher Paolini is just a bad author, plain and simple. His Eragon books were uninspiring, long, boring, and most importantly, completely derivative. Just a rip-off of the Star Wars movie, beat from beat. Take a drive-by with Eragon, why don't you? Just because the authors are the same. Jeez. That's a whole nother, you done messed up. That's a whole nother video. Chillax. Let's continue. To Sleep with the Sea is absolutely no improvement in his earlier work. Unfortunately, it's a long, bloated, boring novel that makes me regret paying money for it. The only positive thing about the book is you can personally say is that at least it's not completely derivative and borrowed from another one like Eragon books were. They don't like Eragon. Unfortunately, this book is still a giant bore, the absolute chore to get through the most part. It's about 500 pages longer than needs to be. Okay, that's a bit exaggerated. If he could trim the list of characters, shave away some of the uninteresting, boring parts of the story, and confine the story within the area of interest, that could have worked, maybe. I think you should do that with this review. I respect some certain features of the story, such as the world building and the reimagination of the future with the introduction of some really interesting tech, but the central premise is just tired, worn out, and overdone. Very much disagree. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this without defending, so I'm gonna try not to speak about it. But at least I gave it props to the tech. Still a 1 star. I mean, like, if you give props to the world building and tech, that's a pretty big part of the book. You don't you think it should be 2 star? Continuing. There's about 1 million of these stories, such as this is about humanity colonization. The stars are coming into conflict with alien race. What has he brought to the table that's any different? The novel literally draws upon every trope science fiction space opera that relied on decades ago. There's absolutely nothing fresh, unique, or interesting in the premise, and nothing at all that rouses the interest in an incredible, overcrowded, and overdone market of ideas. She feels saucy, dude. She don't like Paolini. She's going after her. I don't know what on earth has driven some of these critics to praise the novel. This is a boring and uninspiring. And if you're looking to read some good science fiction, I would strongly suggest that you take your money elsewhere. Without even a suggestion? Come on now. Anyways, like, I want to follow this girl, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be like, I want her to add a list, be like, this, and this are good books. I wrote 5-star reviews on those. Check them out. That'd be nice. But yeah, there you have it. That was an aggressive 5-paragraph 1-star review complaining about the book being too long. Ironic, I would say. Okie dokie, are you ready for the spoiler section of this book? If you haven't read this, know that you will be spoiled forever, and I recommend you go read it because I really liked it, even though it is super long and people complain about that a lot. But if you're willing to give it a try, I would recommend you trying it before watching the rest of this video. Good job, team. Break. Let's start these spoiler reviews. Xenobiologist is in an alien's second skin starts the book off well. Love the scenes are sadly stiff and unreal. Then we spend the rest of the book zipping through space in cryogenic is what I think they were going for. Sorry, I had to put that together. Honestly, I wasn't making fun of them. Fight an alien, talk about the second skin forming dust from poop. That was hilarious, dude. That was cool. That was now that we're in the spoiler section, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm addressing something earlier where she said the science didn't make sense. Literally, the spacesuit eats materials like a human because it's alive and genetic, and it poops dust. Like, dust falls off of it as if we pooped. That way it gets rid of all the waste. That is such a genius thing to do. Like, what? I've never seen that in any book. I don't know if there is already out there. I'm sure there is, but at least it's thought through, and it wasn't just like, oh, it eats this and then it uses its materials. It was like, it also acts like a human and it's like real and alive, and I don't know. I think it was funny, at least. Personal thoughts that drag on uninteresting for pages after page after page after, well, you get the point. Some interesting characters named, but 2-dimensional characters, even the main one, Kira, who I never did like. Save their precious time and don't bother. No passion or deep thoughts here. So I think we need to address, obviously a lot of people didn't like how he didn't dive super deep into any characters, and I would kind of agree with that. He didn't go and give every single character like a character list and like the main character. I would almost agree that wasn't 100% into it, but I do agree that he didn't dive super deep like a lot of these modern science fiction and fantasy authors are, and I think that's a big problem that they're seeing. Way to go against the crowd. I want to give respect to everyone right now. If you wrote a 1-star review, you are against the crowd. And if it was a genuine right, like that one, instead of one that was like trying to draw attention to yourself, good for you and keep on trucking. Appreciate it. Wow, what a disappointment. I'm 35% of the way in and I'm shocked about the mediocre of the writing, the shallowness of the characters, and the absurd of the plot progression, the grammar and the structure. Who published this? An AI? Characters are disjointed and flat as if writing by someone who doesn't understand human dynamics. The purported technology and nonsensical, what the heck? Man's first contact is treated like a minor border skirmish, and what on earth was he thinking with jellies? What editor gave the green light to move ahead with this? Paolini gets 0 stars for this snooze fest. Aggressive? Much? They tried to do a different alien that looks like jellies and they got mad about it. Like, that part's whack. But the rest of it is all you. You didn't like the structure and everything, and you keep hating on the book. Let me know if any of you agree with these. I'll roast you too. No, I'll try not to. I've been trying. This is really hard not to say talk a bunch of trash. This is me holding back just for the information. The summary of the book, which includes the premise of sci-fi, first contact scenario, and the female protagonist, interesting me and started to read through. However, I was quickly disappointed. Only made it through 10% of the book, 190 pages. That's not accurate. Book before I gave up. She spent her first half of those pages validly talking on and on about her boyfriend, which was boring and annoying, but I kept reading thinking that it was a better once we got to the exciting, adventurous parts. First off, they were engaged and she killed him. What do you mean? How is she just gonna forget about him in like 10 seconds? Obviously, it's a part of the story. Come on. Kieran then did nothing but pass by being repeatedly tortured. This is not science fiction. This is a glorified violence against women in the form of pain porn. Oh my gosh, I didn't read this one before. Masquerading as a long-winded epic. Honestly, I would recommend this book to anyone, but it's particularly worrisome that impressionable young folks might stumble upon the book due to the author linked to YA fiction and not be influenced by this terrible portrayal of a woman. That was just aggressive. I think it's wild that everyone's so mad that it was a woman, but that he was trying to write as a woman, and then some people are saying it's terrible written women style, and then everyone else is like, we want more women in books, and then he did this just because he felt like he wanted to, and now they're all roasting him like violence against women, and they turned into porn because they were getting tortured, but nothing to do with any female parts that were tortured. So I think that is wild that you put that in the review. Oh, I would roast you. Oh, you bad. Oh, don't do that. Bad. Next review. I give up. 600 pages in, and I give up. This book is so gosh darn long for no reason. I have no idea why Paolini decided to put a trilogy into one book, but he did it. He did, and it's boring as hell. Fair enough. This is the continue, I didn't notice. The same plot plays over and over. The motley crew is in the most cliche version and I've ever seen, and they're all boring as sin. I thought they were only going to be 20 pages. They were so flat. The sci-fi part is all generic and bland, not an interesting idea in the bunch. Why did I do this to myself? The aliens are evil sea creatures. It's kind of boring. What? Anyway, shut up. We're done. We're not reading the rest of that review. Forget it. Forget that guy. I appreciate people that write 1-star reviews. That was our last one, and I hope that everyone keeps writing them because I like to read them, first off, and I think they're funny, and secondly, I do think it gives a good counterpoint to these big authors who just kind of get a free pass on a lot of stuff, even though, in my opinion, if it was my review, it is a really good book. And I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had fun. Let me know if you wanted me to do more of these or for other books, and if you have any ideas of what you want me to do next. I had a bunch of fun. That's all.